1 second lang, simula na tayo. Let's get it on. Okay. Ayan na mga kameta. Kamusta kayo dyan? Hello, hello. Ating mga kaibigan dyan sa YouTube, sa Facebook. Yan, mahal na mahal ko kayo. Kaya sabi ko, habol natin after all the talks, meetings, kaninang maaga pa lang. 8 a.m. pa lang, back to business na naman, back to work. Kaya, ngayon na medyo may time tayo after some work, sabi ko mag-catch up tayo. Kanina lang mga kameta, nakita natin na may big announcements, big statements and interventions by no less than presidential sister and the chairwoman of the Foreign Affairs Committee sa Senate ukol dito sa issue ng EDCA. And I must say mga ka-YouTube, mga ka-meta, no? Ay. Hindi, kaya nga ka-meta sabi ko kasi naging meta na rin yung Facebook, diba? So, ano yan, sa ka-YouTube. Pero tuloy, yung meta, mga ka-meta, naging anyone who is supporter ng mga ginagawa natin at advocacy natin dito. Anyway, mga ka-meta lahat, whether that's YouTube kayo or hindi, ka-meta kayo, alright? Ka-meta, alright. Mga ka-meta, ayan na. So, yung ating presidential sister has come out strong once more again dito sa issue ng EDCA, and I think this is very interesting because I'll be honest mga kameta, not necessarily a fan or something like that. I'm just saying, my point siya. My point si Senator Amy Marcos when it comes to some of the concerns that she raised with things potentially lacking dito sa EDCA deal natin. So, sabi ko nga mga kameta, meron akong disagreements to a certain degree. So ito yun lalabas natin dito. Sorry, di ko dala yung OBS natin, so we're just gonna have this. So i-flash ko lang dito yung sinasabi ko. So kanina may mga series of tweets tayo. Boom, dahil medyo na-agit din ako because the last thing I want mga kameta is this. For us to be more dependent on another superpower so that we don't get bullied by another superpower, right? Para sa akin mga kameta, napakamahalaga na we develop our own capacity, our own defensive capabilities. No? Yung AFP modernization, yun po dapat ang i-prioritize natin para meron tayong sariling kakayahan na pagdepensa para i-depensa natin yung West Philippine Sea at hindi lang West Philippine Sea, but yung Benham Rice, Philippine Rice, lahat yan, kailangan natin depensahan yan. Now, of course, mahalaga na may allies ka eh. Kaya nga sabi ko, to paraphrase Winston Churchill, what's even worse than having not so reliable allies or fighting with your allies is not having any allies, especially when you have some big troubles or you have a big rival or a big enemy for that matter. Of course, the context of Winston Churchill's statement was during the Second World War, when he was having a lot of problem and a lot of headache with the Americans to get them on his side against the Germans. Later on, he had to also make a deal with Stalin against Nazi Germany. It was really difficult. Stress na stress si Winston Churchill. Pero sabi niya, better ma-stress ka sa mga allies na kahit hindi 100% reliable, at least may ally ka, kaysa mag-isang wala. Because he knew very well that there's no way that UK or Britain could take on Germany on its own. So despite all the headache and problems and reliability issues and iffiness and ambivalence of America and also big problems of dealing with Russia, he still made a deal with the Russians and with the Americans to team up together, and three of them were able to defeat, of course, the two fascist powers during the Second World War. So, parang ko sinasabi mga kameta, of course, agree ako, even with President Duterte. I think, or rather, President Duterte perhaps agrees with me, right? Kasi tayo nagsulat back in the day pa. I don't know about yung mga sinasabi ni tatay nung time na mayor siya, but I'm saying, back in the day, I wrote a lot about making sure yung alyansa natin with America is going to benefit the Philippines and make sure na hindi tayo mag-independent sa Amerika. So, ang concern natin dito mga kameta, of course, ito yung nakita natin na ito. So, ito yung intervention ni Amy Marcos. Oh, ba't nawala? Ito yung intervention ni Amy Marcos today kung saan sabi niya, why do we rely on foreigners to defend us? Again, as I said, of course, it's better to have allies than no allies, and better to be allied with a democratic or semi-democratic power, imperial power, whatever you want to call it, than a totally authoritarian dictatorship superpower. Okay, so let's be very clear about those things. But being allies with a superpower should not be necessarily, mga kameta, an excuse for us not to develop our own capabilities. Because at the end of the day, we have to rely on our own. If push comes to shove, we have to have our own capabilities so that we'll be taken seriously as an ally. At sana naman dito sa Pilipinas, hindi lang tayo tagabigay ng mga base sa mga Amerikano, pero actually may sarili tayong kakayahan. So Japan, for instance, and South Korea have strong relationship with the United States. They even host permanent US bases. But no one calls Korea and Japan, his right one, as tuta of America per se, because Japan and South Korea have their own defensive capabilities. No, they have their own defensive capabilities. So, para sa atin sa Pilipinas, mahalaga na we also develop our own defensive capabilities para hindi tayo masyadong dependent dito sa mga Amerikano, because we never know how much we can rely on them if push comes to shove. In the same way, the Americans develop their own capabilities to the max because they also don't know how much they can rely on their allies if push comes to shove. Do you get what I'm saying? Common sense lang yan. Kaya ngayon, I would say, even though nung isang buwan, the other month, I was not 100% in agreement with MARCOS, because I think the concern of the senator was that by expanding the EDCA to areas in the north of the country, we might provoke China, etc. My counter argument to that was, well, I'm not sure about that because it depends on how China interprets this. It also is about deterrence, because if you're not prepared, if Taiwan is vulnerable, the greater the likelihood that Taiwan will be invaded. And as her brother, the current president, Marcos Jr., correctly pointed out, if a war happens over Taiwan, lahat tayo apektado, damay-damay yan. So there's no way we can keep out of the Taiwan crisis. So better make sure we prevent the invasion of Taiwan by indirectly helping Taiwan to be as defensible as possible and to raise the cost of invasion of Taiwan, because we don't want Taiwan to turn into Ukraine. Ukraine was weak, had no allies, was not part of NATO, kaya in-invade sila ng Russia. I'm not saying China is Russia, but the point is to raise the cost and make it more difficult and make China think twice about kinetic actions against Taiwan. And I think Marcos Jr. is kind of correct to say that the best way to do this is through deterrence, and deterrence comes if you're prepared for war, because when you're prepared for war, it's more likely that you'll get peace and you'll not see bullies throwing their weight around. Diba? Na-discuss na natin yan. So yun yung medyo point of disagreement natin dun sa argument of its provocation. I find that medyo more tatay school of geopolitics. No? But I do agree with Senator Amy Marcos that we have to absolutely make sure that itong EDCA will not be a situation whereby, ayan, binigyan natin ng mga Amerikano mga base dito, sige, aasa na lang tayo sa mga Amerikano, bahala na sila sa atin kung sakali may problema tayo, ganun. No, it's not gonna work that way. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that's the case per se, and I'm gonna read the quotes by our acting defense secretary and former AFP chief Carlito or Charlie Galvez. In fairness naman, my clarificatory point din sila. But as I said, in principle, I agree with Amy Marcos that we have to make sure that, and again, I'm not a fan, I'm just saying, we don't need to 100% agree with each other to agree with each other on certain points, right? And this is concerning our national interest. So sabi ni Amy Marcos today, kanina lang yan dun sa Senate hearing, it appears that the government is now relying on, quote, foreigners for external defense following the approval of 4 more enhanced defense cooperation agreement. No? By the way, this is not a direct quote, yung foreigners, yung quote lang. Let me go to direct quote. Kasi ang concern, ito. Sabi niya, bakit parang nakalimutan na natin, parang aasan na lang ba tayo sa mga dayuhan na ipagtanggol tayo samantalang ang ating sandatang lakas ay nanatiling bulok, luma, medyo next. Again, I'm not sure ganun yung level of AFP today, because the AFP, I think today, in fairness, has gone through almost 2 phases of modernization. So medyo may mga frigates na tayo, medyo may mga upgraded, trainer fighter jets tayo, hindi naman super next level pa, but at least we're getting there. In fairness naman, meron na tayong BrahMos super missile systems. Hindi naman tayo, I disagree of the characterization of AFP as bulok or luma, but I completely agree that we have to make sure AFP further modernizes, because this is not about how modern we are per se, but how modern we are compared to our potential rivals and also our neighbors and peers. Ayon kay Amy Marcos, and we're just relying on foreigners to defend us while the armed forces remain rotten. Oh, sorry, ginawa kong Tagalog. Ay, English. So sabi niya, bakit parang nakalimutan na natin, parang aasa na lang ba tayo sa mga dayuhan na ipagtanggol tayo samantalang ang ating sandahan lakas ay nanatiling bulok luma. Okay, as I said, I kind of disagree with the bulok luma part, but I kind of agree that we have to make sure that we develop our capabilities. At sabi ni Marcos, and we're just relying on foreigners to defend us while the armed force ito yung translation, nanatiling bulok luma underarmed and completely underarmed, okay, underarmed and completely abject in the face of external threats. Okay, medyo may problema ako sa parang naguluhan yung translation and all. Anyways, ang sinasabi niya, wag naman tayo sana umasa sa mga dayon na protektahan tayo. Dapat talaga uunahin natin itong AFP. Alright? Now, Senator Marcos said, so may back and forth ito with Carlito Galvez or Charlie Galvez, itong Defense Secretary natin. Sabi ng Defense Secretary natin, ito. Sorry, medyo. Okay. Na-hyper tayo sa coffee. Malakas yung mga kape nila dito. In fairness, kahapon na, grabe. Nag-work tayo until 5 a.m. nung gabi. Gising tayo ng 8. Nag-chair tayo ng panel from 10 to 12. Then, nag-talk tayo ng 12 to 2 o'clock over Zoom with Bicol University. And then, balik na naman. May talk na naman ako 4 to 5. And then, after that, hanggang gabi, ito na naman tayo. Naglakad-lakad, nag-jogging pa ako dito sa beach. And then, ayan, kanina umaga ulit. Anyway, maganda yung kape nila dito kaya medyo hyper tayo. Pasensya na, okay. Wait lang hindi ito ADHD. Balikan natin. So, ito yung quote again. Ito yung sabi ni Marcos. Marcos. Sabi niya, with regards to the purpose of EDCA and modernization, it appears to us to reiterate that in fact, modernization no longer appears to be the primary primary of EDCA, primary purpose of EDCA, I think she meant, but disaster preparedness, maritime security, and counterterrorism. In really implementing those functions, we need to modernize, Madam, considering all those. So sabi ni Galvez, kind of agree naman ako sa'yo. And then nung sinabi ni Amy Marcos na bakit para nakalimutan na natin itong modernization of AFP, kawawang AFP, ang sabi naman ni Galvez, yung ating Defense Secretary, na the acquisition plans laid out under Horizon 3 of the AFP modernization plan, which includes the procurement of radar system, missile systems, and offshore patrol vessels and mga other equipment. So ang sinasabi ni Galvez naman, hindi naman bulok ang AFP. In fairness naman, may ginagawa tayo. Nasa phase 3 na tayo ng AFP, Revised AFP Modernization Act, which by the way was started by Pinoy, so God bless Pinoy soul. Again, we not 100% agree with everything Pinoy said, but in fairness, may point naman si Galvez na sinasabi na may mga ginagawa naman tayo, no? So both under Aquino and under Duterte, in fairness, we push for the modernization of AFP. But as I said, we're not there yet. Kaya tama rin si Amy Marcos na dapat unahin talaga natin doon. So sabi na Amy Marcos, you make reference to projects under Horizon Phase 1, Phase 2, and 3, which are not referred to at EDCA, but are in part and parcel of AFP modernization. So, ito ang basically point niya. Anong ambag ng EDCA dun sa helping our AFP modernization? To which, sabi ni Galvez, the modernization effort of EDCA is to basically to really prepare to defend our country collectively with our allies. Okay. So, he didn't essentially clarify. Sabi niya, kaya nga sabi ni Marcos, that's a very general statement. I would appreciate if you could submit in the future, in the near future, the modernization aspect of the EDCA, which has not been clarified in any of these discussions in the chamber. Now, just to give you an idea what's going on here, because katulad na sinabi natin, don't worry, I'll post you articles I've written on this extensively. We have more articles coming on this. No, ganito kasi mga kameta. The other week, we had the 2+2 meetings between our defense and foreign secretaries and defense and foreign secretaries of the U.S. At dun sa 2+2 meeting na yan na nangyari sa Washington, D.C. for the first time in 7 years, nag-agree ng U.S. to give $100 million for EDCA sites development. I think they're giving an additional $60 million or $80 million or around $200 million max. I think kulang yan. I think we need billions of dollars because some of the sites in Cagayan, etc., are totally underdeveloped. They're not really much of a military kind of facility. There's very basic facilities. But the other thing is that the U.S. promised $100 million of foreign military financing, which is just what we used to get before. It's not really much. $100 million is not small, but given the needs of the AFP, it's kind of small, right? So, may point naman si Senadora na sinasabi niya, anong meron dyan sa EDCA or dito sa 2+2 or ito sa ating cooperation, expanded cooperation with US that ensures we are in a good position to really upgrade and push to the next level yung itong AFP modernization natin. Kaya nga yung intervention natin kanina, guys, sa Twitter was that what I want to see is, aside from routine minimal foreign military financing, yung $100 million na sinasabi ko, we need to ensure we get real items for AFP modernization. When I say real items, like big ticket items, we need updates on whether the country get an affordable version of this package, including modern fighters and missile systems. So ito yung pinakita natin yung isang week, mga kameta. I'm referring to the $2 billion package approved by the Pentagon, by the US the other year. So this is it includes Harpoon missile systems, hopefully HIMARS systems. We're looking at probably even Patriot missile system, but it's not there in the package. So this is mostly F-16 fighters, and I said we need F-16 V version sana na more advanced. Kasi kung yung original F-16 lang, medyo luma na rin yan eh. So ito yung mga items na 10 F-16C Block 7/72 aircrafts, 2 two-seat F-16D Block 7/72 aircraft, 15 Northrop Grumman AN/APG-83 scalable agile beam radars, because of course this aircraft, fire jets have to have something going with them. 24 Raytheon AIM-120 advanced medium range air-to-air missiles in the C7 or C8 variant. So ito yung mga ibang aircrafts natin. GPS laser guided kits, associated support equipment, etc. So medyo malaking budget ang kailangan nito. At saka ito yung mga Harpoon missiles, no? Harpoon Block 2 anti-ship missiles. So ito rin kasama dito, among others. So hindi lang fighter jets, we're looking at missile systems, we're looking at other kinds of that you need with modern fighter jets. So marami nandito. But mga kameta, this is 2021 pa. So almost two years ago. This is June 2021. It's already almost June 2023. So I need to see updates on this. Kung ano ba talaga? Because kung ang concern natin is kulang yung budget natin, then baka naman, like I said, dapat siguro they can give part of it as grant or under very affordable conditions so that the Philippines can get the ball rolling, so that we can have modern fighter jets. We finally need that, mga kameta. So what I'm saying here is, I get the point of Marcos Jr. correcting yung super pro-China style ni tatay na wala naman nangyari, di ba? So ayoko naman yung situation na ganun. But we have to make sure in correcting that mistake, we don't become suddenly over-dependent on the US and not make the most out of the alliance. Mali din yan, because for me, the ultimate goal, the alliance is just a means. The end is the protection of our national interests, and part of protecting our national interests is developing our own capabilities. So yun lang sinasabi natin, mga kameta. At my fear is we might swing in the other opposite direction. Kaya sabi ko, I'm not 100% on this EDCA issue yet because I have to see ano ba talagang ginagawa natin para siguraduhin na we make the most out of our alliance. Kasi kung ito ay we just give more and more access to Americans pero walang kapalit yan in terms of making sure yung AFP modernization natin hindi na expedite, not making sure we get the best weapon systems under the best terms, then suddenly I'm not very sure about what's going on. Diba? Yun nga eh. This is not about being pro-US, pro-China. It's about being pro-the-Philippines. And being pro-Philippines means we really focus on developing our own capabilities. Right? And any alliance should help us to develop our own capabilities instead of us being more dependent on another superpower to stop bullying by the other superpower. It doesn't work that way, mga kameta. Right? Alright. Thank you very much. I'll keep it there. Medyo na-hyper tayo. Kailangan natin lumabas bago Ayan, medyo malapit na gagabi na yan. Baba na ako. Kailangan natin mag-exercise para naman. Mga fuego natin. Medyo mag-keep natin yan. So, thank you very much, mga kameta. Thank you very much dun sa mga sumusuporta sa atin. Ayan, marami tayong mga kameta. Kay Arabella, Luis, kay Rito Esperanza, kay Noemi Tablare. Yan, sa mga supporters natin, Ma'am Jocelyn Lumberia, thank you very much. Kay Riza Oraya, kay Maylin Escarcha, kay Joselito Oliveros. Yan, puro mga hi, hello. Hindi, eto Joselito, sabi ko nga, I don't buy the good cop, bad cop because even if it's good cop, bad cop, yung mga anti-EDCA, ginagamit itong sinasabi ng isa to go after the incumbent. Do you get what I'm saying? The problem with the good cop, bad cop argument is that it assumes you can contain the situation within a scripted drama. But that's not how it works. Even the Chinese embassy tends to cite certain people to defend its attack, its criticism of EDCA. Guess what? So no, I don't buy it as a good cop, bad cop. Even if it were a good cop, bad cop, it's not working that way because good cop, bad cop assumes it's a script and you can control the plot. But I don't see the controlling of plot here because yun nga eh, if you have an influential senator coming out and criticizing EDCA this way, no wonder Tatay Digong, no wonder yung mga leftist groups, no wonder yung mga Cagayan governors, Isabela, lahat yan, na-embolden sila mag-criticize. Right? Yeah, yan ang sinasabi natin eh. You have to, wag lang tayo mag-conspiratorial mag-isip. Mag-isip ka rin ng mga actual consequences. Kaya nga, ang framework of thinking should be game theory. If A does X, what will be the response of B? Right? Gets mo? Dapat medyo algorithmic, medyo game theory dapat ang thinking natin because that's the only way you can really predict how things, not predict, but forecast how things are gonna go. That's why I was able to forecast a lot of changes. Before Duterte came in, I wrote that in my book, Asia's New Battlefield. Kung nabasa niyan, I was expecting someone like Digong to come in. Although when I was writing it, parang si Binay pa. I wrote it like 2013-14. Wala pa si Digong sa eksena. But I was thinking, if Binay wins, baka he'll go that direction. But eventually, Duterte came in and went in the direction that we thought Binay would go if he had become the president on the foreign policy, on China issue. And then, tignan mo yung lahat ng mga ginawa natin major interviews at mga sinulat natin nung bago pa lang or hindi pa naging presidente si Marcos Jr. And that's exactly what happened. Why? Because ang gagamitin natin na framework is not yung mga outdated, luma conspiracy theories. No, you use game theory. You'll say, if A has this range of interest, and then B has this range, if A does this, then what will the B do? And then from there, you can make, projections about how things will gonna move forward. Not to mention, you have to understand history, psychology, sibling dynamics, all of these things, mga kameta. Alright? So don't fall for yung mga bloggers, yung mga pa-expert, yung mga pa-ganon na puro mga bulok na mga analysis or mga outdated or conspiratorial or yung mga ganyan. Huwag kayo maniwala sa ganon. Dapat you have to do game theory. Alright? That's how you do it, mga kameta. Alright? Thank you very much for your support. Very nice. Alright. I'll go na mga kameta. Talk to you guys soon and maraming salamat. Ayan, by the way, dito kay Thaddeus Nunez, kay Science and Facts, kay Lori Dita Almesion. Yan. Thank you very much. Just Your Average Joe. No. I mean, actually, game theory is more used in economics, actually, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, or you can, actually, it's also used in psychology. It's also used in finance. So not necessarily social sciences. But guys, you have to be more oriented with game theory because I'll be honest, much of the analysis I do there in projections is really based on my understanding of how game theory is and my application of that into actual politics. Right? Huwag na kayo makinig yung mga, uy, sabi ni ganito Marites. Yung iba kasi hanggang Marites or conspiracy theory, bulok yung mga ganyan. Hindi yan world class. Pansin nyo, yung mga ibang blogger, journalist, no one cares about them abroad or anything. You know why? Because dalang credibility yung mga sinasabi nila. Right? No, I'm not saying I get everything right, but I'm saying there's a reason why, mga kameta. Alam nyo na, di ba? Alam nyo na this, di ba? No, but the other thing, mga kameta, sorry, Lord, I didn't want to be. No, but the other things, mga kameta, we constantly we try to write and analyze things. Kaya that pressures me to constantly refine my analysis, right? Because when you write, it goes through review, it goes through a process, it goes through research. Madali lang magmarites, but when you constantly write, it forces you to refine your analysis, look at the latest evidence, put them together, 360. Anyway, but I will say, yes, to be honest, I use game theory a lot in my projections about where things are going. Not with 100% accuracy, but so far, so good, thank God, and I want to keep it that way. Tao lang tayo, I'm not going to get everything right, but so far, I think the game theory approach, the more evidence-based approach does way better than yung mga marites, conspiratorial thinking approach. So no, I don't buy it as good cop, bad cop because even if it were good cop, bad cop, that's not the effect. It's the consequence that matters. You create a permission structure for the critics to come in. Diba? I thought sabi ni Miro, binibenta ba yung game theory sa Lazada? No, I think, hindi, kasi ibang books ko are published abroad, so I don't know. In academic Palgrave yung iba. So you can order them online on Amazon, etc. One of my books was reprinted in the Philippines by Anvil, twice or three times sold out parate. Alright? So I hope Anvil will republish it or hopefully will republish some of the newer books I have, etc. Yung ibang books ko hindi ko na-republish kasi ayaw magpa-republish yung mga foreign paging Palgrave, alright, foreign publishers. The other ones you can also find on Bloomsbury site. You can check out my works there. But again, you don't have to read my books per se to see what I'm trying to do here, right? Game theory. This is what we're trying to do. Not 100% accurate all the time, but definitely way more accurate than a lot of nonsense out there. Alright, yung mga, uy, kilala ko si ganito, ganito sinabi. Uy, ganitong, wag mo yung mga nabulok na yung mga yan. Alright. Maraming salamat mga kameta and talk to you soon. Thank you again sa lahat naman nagbigay ng star and support. I really appreciate it. It's very kind of you. Alright? Para naman, may pang ano tayo dyan. May pang vitamin C juice tayo dyan. Alright, thank you. Talk to you guys soon. God bless. God bless.